Medal on July 3rd, delivering remarks to attendees gathered on Independence Mall in Philadelphia. His virtual participation comes after he declined an invitation from the Trump administration to join 4th of July festivities. I'm Bree Wood with What's Trending.
Then hear us on WBOK1230.com.
Yo, turn it up. It's Gerod on the air, spitting truth in the booth. We ain't going nowhere. New Orleans City got us hard in the beat, but corruption creeping in, gotta take back the street. But corruption creeping in, gotta take back the street. From the French Quarter vibes to the Ninth Ward grind, he's the voice of the people, yo, he's one of a kind. Talking about the struggle, the hustle, the pain, but with each word he drops, he's bringing power to the game. Gerod on the radio, calling out the lies, bringing light to the dark, keeping hope in our eyes. He's the voice of the people, making changes unfold. In the city of NOLA, we're reclaiming our soul. Try to silence the truth, but he's loud and clear. From the bayou to the block, everyone can hear. Got the people united, it's a movement, no doubt. With his mic in hand, he's breaking all the clout. City eat the official scheming, yeah, they playing it slick. But Gerod's on the line and he's ready to kick. For the schools and the streets, he's fighting the fight. With a heart full of passion, he's igniting the night. Gerod on the radio, calling out the lies, bringing light to the dark, keeping hope in our eyes. He's the voice of the people, making changes unfold. In the city of NOLA, we're reclaiming our soul. From the jazz in the streets to the gumbo pot, he's the pulse of the city, giving all he's got. Together we rise, united we stand. With Gerod on the radio, we're taking back our land. So tune in, y'all, let the truth resonate. With Gerod on the mic, we're rewriting our fate. In New Orleans, the power is ours to embrace. Keep it real, keep it loud, let's uplift this place. In the streets to the gumbo pot, he's the pulse of the city, giving all he's got. Together we rise, united we stand. With Gerod on the radio, we're taking back our land. So tune in, y'all, let the truth resonate. With Gerod on the mic, we're rewriting our fate. In New Orleans, the power is ours to embrace. Keep it real, keep it loud, let's uplift this place. Gerod on the radio, calling out the lies, bringing light to the dark, keeping hope in our eyes. He's the voice of the people, making changes unfold. In the city of NOLA, we're reclaiming our soul. Yeah, tune in, y'all. Let the truth resonate. With Gerod on the mic, we're rewriting our fate. In New Orleans, the power is ours to embrace. Keep it real, keep it loud, let's uplift this place. Gerod on the radio, calling out the lies, bringing light to the dark, keeping hope in our eyes. He's the voice of the people, making changes unfold. In the city of NOLA, we're reclaiming our soul. Yeah. Let the truth resonate. With Gerod on the mic.
What's that? Like red in the building.
We're rewriting our
baby.
In New Orleans,
Your right side on.
the power is ours to embrace.
Yes, it is. It is now.
You can't
Keep
hear
it
me.
real, keep it loud, let's uplift this place.
Let's uplift this place. Let's uplift this place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had to do that for Dynamite Red. That was one for Dynamite Red. Ah, yeah.
But see, when you said that, it made me think about Smokey B. Oh yeah, Smokey B, baby.
You can have that one. I'm gonna let you have that one just because. Where the DJ at?
Well, Smokey used to DJ at Shishi's.
Yeah, exactly.
And Q93.
You used to tell me you ain't never go to
No, I could know he DJ there. Now I ain't gonna lie, I used to go hang out with my boy Devil Red sometime.
Oh.
Sometime.
Oh.
Until I started seeing women with bullet holes and cigarette burns. I said, nah, it's time to
Did you
leave.
say women with bullet holes?
Yeah, bullet holes and cigarette burns.
Let's say hello to the counselor who's here today.
Hello, y'all. I'm here. I
Yeah,
am here. I'm just letting them have their
No, please step
walk
in.
down memory lane.
Step in because we're going to go down that rabbit hole that we don't need to go down.
No, sir. You're going to be down there by yourself. By yourself.
The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Ain't nobody innocent
And
in
the
this,
guilty.
in this conversation. Ain't nobody innocent.
Protect the innocent.
Innocent.
What's that word?
Welcome, folks. It is another day. The reality check is in full effect. Of course, you can tell. We've got the counselor here. Yes, indeed. Suzette Bagnaris with us on the ones and twos.
Busy day, but we're here.
It's been, you know what?
Busy day.
You're right.
Yeah. We started off the morning with depositions in a inadequate security premises liability case, and where somebody got shot at a club, and
Yep.
then we worked on hard rock negotiations and
Including all the meetings.
lawsuits against the city and all kinds of things.
And you had meetings
Had
with
meetings,
other folks.
yeah, and still made it here.
And still filling out paperwork.
Still filling out paperwork. Still here.
And still got here.
Still got here.
All right, folks. So we got a lot to talk about. I put down a couple of things, but one that kind of really got to me was the fact that we had started talking about the Heil Hitler Nazi salute that happened at one of the Irish parades. I think this one was in Metairie on Sunday. And in my professional opinion, I don't know. Was it the fact that this happened, or was it the fact that we heard what the councilwoman in Jefferson Parish said afterwards, comparing her conversation to all the folks that was there, Jennifer Van Branken. So I'm really interested in hearing what she has to say after she finds out that this is the truth, that happened, because she had and probably had just as much conversation about this as anybody else, especially me, and had the opportunity to hear eyewitnesses state that these boys were on these floats or on a float and raising up their arms and also saying Heil Hitler on float. They were doing the German salute, the Nazi salute. And her conversation and her comments to me were denial. And I think that denial is what is going to make everybody go, you got to be kidding me. Especially when the parish president has made a statement and said, we have no type of anything. We have no leeway, nothing, when conduct of this behavior and this type of behavior happens. This is not good. It's not good for us. We don't stand for it, and we are going to investigate it. So I was really, I don't know, pissed off is a good word, but I was really looking at this and saying to myself, what would make Jennifer Van Branken really say, oh, it's all right. It was a whole lot of other stuff going on. So I pulled up the story. I'm sending it to you now, Wick. I pulled up the story because I want everybody to hear this. Now, am I making crucial conversation about what she said? Yes, I am. Because anybody that is going to stand there, you don't even know if the persons that said that were your residents that said, hey, I heard these young men when they passed by me. And it's not a black person.
No, so it was a white person who said they observed the hand gestures and heard the comments.
Right. So whether we want to believe that
his name was Dominic Graves.
Right. Well, whether we want to believe that this is racial or not, you have an eyewitness to this. You, as the council person, weren't there.
Well, she was in the parade, but
Right.
she was on a different float.
Right. So she didn't see this.
She did not see it occur.
So is that an excuse?
I don't know, but she did say she saw video of it. And even after seeing the video of it,
She said the boys could have just been raising their hands.
she said, I see two young men, and they both have opposite hands up. So one's got a right hand, one's got a left hand up. One has a bag of potato chips, sometimes in the left hand, Van Rankin said. So to me, my initial thought would have been from those images to conclude there was something offensive.
But she didn't.
Correct. Despite her reservations, Van Rankin said the incident would be investigated. If there is something there, then the appropriate citation or action will be taken, she said.
But I still don't think that's a good enough answer.
Well, the St. Patrick Parade Committee of Jefferson apologized immediately for the incident. They said they view the actions as unacceptable and contrary to our goals of staging a family-friendly event that may be enjoyed by all members of the community. Now, the riders have been banned from participating in future parades. The parade is also facing a $400 fine, one for each rider who has been banned, according to a spokesperson in Jefferson Parish. But, you know, the person who actually videotaped the event and heard the comments was Dominic Graves. He said he was enjoying the parade with family and friends when he heard something appalling. I was at the parade. My girlfriend and I were there. Her little nieces and little cousins were all there. And all of a sudden we hear Heil Hitler, Graves said. And I started to look around. And then I pulled out my cell phone and started recording the front of the float in front of them. My girlfriend points out, look up at the top. And we notice there's a bunch of young men doing Nazi salutes. And we immediately got really upset.
So I don't know why. Okay, so am I making a making a mountain out of a molehill? What am I doing? Am I just criticizing her just to be criticizing her? I've had no quarrels with this woman. I don't even know her. But I'm sitting here saying as the person who represents
all of Jefferson Parish.
All of Jefferson Parish.
Said she reviewed the footage and she was not immediately convinced that something offensive had occurred. Now, how could she review that videotape, which is on social media for everyone to review, and have a completely different perspective than the Jefferson Parish Parade Committee, other council people in Jefferson Parish, and the public who viewed the same video on social media?
You got the story?
Yep. When you vote for Trump, you have blinders on.
Yeah, let's play it.
Yesterday at the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Metairie will not be riding again.
Well, the disciplinary action comes after some video surfaced of these young float riders appearing to flash some Nazi salutes. Paul Murphy has a story from the man who captured it on camera.
Dominic Graves says he was enjoying Sunday's St. Patrick's Day Parade in Metairie with family and friends when he heard something appalling.
I was at the parade. My girlfriend and I were there. Her little nieces and little cousins were all there. And all of a sudden we hear Heil Hitler. We start looking around like, what?
Graves pulled out his cell phone and started recording images of the float in front of them.
My girlfriend points out, look up top, and we notice there's a bunch of young men doing Nazi salutes. And we immediately got really upset.
We blurred the riders' faces because their ages are unknown. Council member at large Jennifer Van Vranken rode in the parade and later saw video of the incident on social media.
I see two young men and they both have opposite hands up. So one's got a right hand up, one's got a left hand up. One has a bag of potato chips sometimes in the left hand. So to me, my initial thought would not have been from those images to conclude that there was something offensive.
Van Vranken says whether she personally believes something happened during the parade or not, it will be investigated.
And if there is something there, then the appropriate citation or action will be taken.
The allegations were investigated by both Jefferson Parish and parade officials. Late Monday afternoon, they concluded riders on the unit were videotaped using hand gestures that were deemed both shocking and offensive to the general public. The St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee of Jefferson would like to publicly apologize for this incident, as we view these actions as unacceptable and contrary to our goals of staging a family-friendly event that may be enjoyed by all members of our community.
I'm from here. I'm fifth generation New Orleanian. I grew up going to that parade. It's extremely disappointing to know that that exists in our community.
The riders were banned from participating in future parades. Paul Murphy, WWL, Louisiana.
In an earlier statement, Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Sheng said the parish, quote, does not tolerate hate. The parish code prohibits riders from displaying behavior that is, quote, shocking or offensive to the general public. A parish spokesperson told us each banned rider cost the organization $100.
$100. So that's what, $200?
Well, they said 400 in the paper. This news story says 200. It's not enough, but it is what it is. She is a graduate of Tulane Law. She is an attorney. She has served as a council person for quite some time. She should know better. She should know better. But, I think she's expressing, as she said, her political views.
Right.
And that she's still going to investigate it, even though she disagrees with it personally. When I see people do stuff like that, you hit them in the pocketbook where they feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Her family owns the Balcony Ballroom in Metairie.
Right.
The venue is owned and operated by her family, founded by her parents, currently operated primarily by her siblings. While she's not considered active in daily management of the business, she has worked there and been a paid consultant employee for quite some time. I think that's important information. Do with it as you will.
Mm-hmm. I just don't see it. I don't see her not seeing what this really was. And if you're going to investigate it, it seems to me that everybody else has investigated it from then to now and hasn't taken all year to make an investigation. This is see what you see and make a judgment. We haven't heard from her yet. And it's another week. I don't know. What you say, Shed?
Hello, how are y'all doing? Is this the same council person in Jefferson Parish that had a Trump dress on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, why we are surprised, and I know we're not. And just today, the person who she idolizes is talking about the IQ level of brown people. Also, this is a person that endorsed the current mayor. So I am asking my mayor, Mayor Moreno, please talk to your girl. Y'all have a good day.
All right, Seb. I just have another issue with this. And my other issue is we can sit there and cry foul, and we can sit up here and have this conversation, but this wasn't even us. We weren't the ones that were offended. Because the guy that said, I couldn't believe this, it had no place for this, it offended my family, he white. That's one of your constituents. So we can go MAGA all we want to. But that didn't offend us, because probably more than likely, I ain't going to say all of us weren't, because probably a lot of us were. But it's not the regular patronage you see at a parade.
Yeah.
That's the St. Patty parade.
Right.
We're not usually out there, gangbusters and deep.
Well, I want to say something. I see somebody on Facebook, on our feed, saying black folks shouldn't be out there celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Irish people don't celebrate Black History, Martin Luther King Day, or Juneteenth. And I hear you, Brother Malik, but black people have also lived in Ireland for centuries, including during the 1700s and 1800s. For example, Frederick Douglass famously visited Ireland in 1845 during his anti-slavery speaking tour and lived there for quite some time. Black sailors, students, and diplomats lived in Dublin during the British Empire era. There are a lot of Irish citizens of African descent. The population has grown significantly since the 1990s, but many Black Irish families have roots in Nigeria, Ghana, Somalia, South Africa, and the Caribbean. Truth be told, I did an ancestry DNA thing a few years back and was shocked that I had some Irish ancestry, because I had always said all throughout elementary school, I don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I'm Black. I don't do that. And then was shocked when I saw some of it in my ancestry DNA. I mean, so it's not an accurate perspective that there are not Black Irishmen. And people with ties to Ireland that happen to be Black.
So let me give my perspective, which really doesn't have anything to do with, what type of blood you got running through your veins, or anybody else's veins, or anybody that's from another part of the, not OPEC.
Brandon always makes me laugh with the stuff he posts.
But I'm looking around and saying to myself, when I cross over to Jefferson Parish, it doesn't say, welcome to Irish land.
No.
When most of us go shopping at the malls, restaurants, whatever, it doesn't say Irish people only. The ordinances that are set up by Jefferson Parish don't say anything about only Irish people. What I'm trying to tell you is this happened in an area of town that majority, if you look around, it's just as many Black folks in Jefferson Parish as white people. But we are not the ones to sit up here complaining about this. I'm saying this is for everybody.
The bottom line is racism has no business parading the streets of any American city.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone had the right to go to that parade without having to witness a racist act by a rider. And we have continually seen this Mardi Gras season. Now we're seeing it in St. Patrick's Day. People are being people. They're expressing their racist views out and open and in the public. And maybe these fines and sanctions are not hefty enough to prove the point.
I don't think they are. A couple of $100. They spent that in cabbage. So that's what I'm just saying. All right, let's take our break. We'll take our break here. We'll come back. We'll have some more conversation, take some of your telephone calls. 504-582-9422 is the number. More coming up in a minute.
Suzette Obagnaris will be back shortly.
That's Suzette Obagnaris.
But she does have green on.
I do have green on.
Have mercy. More coming up, y'all.
Hey y'all, make sure you tune in on Thursdays at 12:30 p.m. for the Roux with Chef Bunny, sponsored by Blue Plate Mayonnaise on WBOK 12:30 a.m.
Greetings and salutations. I am Edward B. Coulon Smith, chairman of the board of the New Orleans Regional Black Chamber of Commerce. We'd like to invite you to tune in every Wednesday at 12 noon on WBOK to listen in on Black to Business and be a part of the movement that's going on. Thank you.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks. Welcome back. Gerardo Stevens, along with Suzette Obagnaris.
Malik says on Facebook Live, we shouldn't be around people who hate us. Well, tell me, Malik, where are we going to go? Because they have haters everywhere. Yeah. There's racism everywhere.
We got haters on this show.
Where are we going to go?
We got haters on this show.
Every day on the Facebook feed.
Yeah, mammy.
Yeah. See? There you go.
I mean, but there is no safe space. There is no safe space. That's the bottom line. We just need to be confident in who we are and not stand for racial incidents when they're in our face. We need to stand up. We need to address it, and we need to speak out about it. We need to let people know it's not to be tolerated, but we can't stop it.
I just look at it and just say, I'm not surprised that something happened, but I am surprised for the people that are supposed to say something about it, that's supposed to represent you when it does happen. And it looked like everybody else in the I guess the leadership of Metairie said something, except for Miss Van Franken.
Van Rankin.
Right, Van Franken.
Van Rankin.
Van Rankin.
Right.
Van Franken.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Brother Malik is calling in all the way up.
Good. Call in, Malik. I want to hear your perspective.
From
where you want us to go? I need to know. Where is the safe place, Malik?
There he is. What you say, brother?
What's going on, brother? How you doing?
Good,
We're doing well. Tell me where we can go and not be victims of racism, Malik.
There's no place that we can go. But still in all, we don't volunteer ourselves to go around these people when we know that these people despise us. You understand? Do you see the Irish? I don't see Irish people participating in anything that we celebrate. So why should we participate in anything that they celebrate? And I understand, yes, it is true that there is roots so that the Irish people, their roots do trace back to black people. I do understand that, right? But once when they came over here to America, they wasn't even considered white. And you know what made them white? When they adopted the anti-black behavior that the other Anglo people adapted. That's when they became white. And they was given all the privileges of white folks as well. Okay? Well, and plus, why are we lobbying to go around these folks anyway?
Well, I don't think in this case. I don't think in this case that's the case. That is the case. I think in this case we saw it because of the fact that it's in the media. Now the person, and let me make sure I make this clear, that the person that complained about it and was really upset about it was a white guy with his family, and they were saying, "Hey, that we did not have any of this going on before," and it shocked them that they saw it, and he filmed it with his camera.
Yeah, I didn't see any black folk on the story. I didn't see anybody interviewed who was black. I didn't see any statements from anybody who was black. But I do know they had black people at the parade.
There's probably some.
When I went out to dinner later that evening, I saw black people who had been at the parade, who had on green shirts, who had on beads from the parade. So I do know black people did attend the parade. And they have the right to be there if they want to be there.
This is my point, right? Okay. We know that black people, although maybe they did not have a lot of black people at that specific parade, but we do know that black people be running around here with green on, talking all this St. Patrick's Day stuff, and those people despise us. That's the facts. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not. Okay? I'm not running around with no green on talking about Happy St. Patrick's Day for a group of people that hates our guts.
Well, white people were at Super Sunday. Should they have not been there?
White people don't know how to stay away from us. We always run away to get away from this, and they come around us. You understand what I'm saying? That's why I'm like, we shouldn't be volunteering or running around those people, because every time we do that, we hit with a high level of disrespect.
But I do think this, though, Brother Malik.
Wherever we go, white folks come around us.
But I do think this, all of our lives, I would say just about all of our lives in the black community, we've always had something to do or say about St. Patrick's Day. Even to the point where when we were kids, the biggest thing was if you didn't wear green, you got pinched. So St. Patrick's Day has always been around the black community.
Well, my point is this. I mean, I understand what you're saying, Brother Malik, but have you done your ancestry DNA yet?
Yes.
Okay, and did you have no European and no Italian and no Irish and nothing else in it except ancestry from The motherland?
You know something, right? I don't even believe in all that stuff because some of that stuff don't even have no Native American markers to it. Where are the Native American markers on the DNA?
Well, actually, my daughters do have Native American on their ancestry DNA that they got from their father's side of the family. I didn't have any in mine. I actually had Saudi Arabian in mine. I don't even know where that came from, but I found it very interesting.
When we talking about Native Americans, you are talking about the red clay Native Americans.
I'm talking about Native Americans.
That were black here. I'm talking about the blacks that were here.
I'm talking about Native Americans.
Oh, all right. Okay.
You know, my daughters have, that was in their ancestry DNA that they just did for Christmas. Native American. So, I mean, it's very interesting.
What is the point of that? What is the point?
The point of that is you may be hating something that is a part of your own DNA. Or saying we shouldn't be around something that may be a part of your own DNA.
Because black Americans had an ethnogenesis. Okay? So all that stuff that you may think that may be a part of you are not a part of you. And if it is, okay, let's just say we have some of that stuff in us, that Italian, that Irish, and all that stuff, right? When you go over there, you think those people going to recognize that? You think they're going to say, oh, you got a little 2, 3, 4, 5% of Italian in you, so we accept you as an Italian?
Well, I got to tell you, I do a lot of world traveling, a lot. And
I have too.
And when I go to Europe, I never have a problem with Europeans being ugly to me or anything like that. I find like Europeans to be like New Orleanians to a certain extent in that they're very welcoming. They want to sit down with you. They want to break bread with you. They want to talk to you. They want to have coffee. They want to have wine. I mean, they seem to be very open people, very accepting people. When I go to Africa, same thing. I mean, you know, I never have these problems when I travel the world. Where I face racism is in America. I face racism in America.
I've traveled the world as well, right? And I've never been hit openly with no racism either, except when I went to Korea. They seem like I seen some kind of racism there that they hit me with a little bit open racism there. Of course they're not going to hit you with the open racism when you come there like that. And plus, our little anecdotal things that we're talking about, your experience and my experience ain't the experience of everyone else.
Everybody got a different experience.
Everybody's got a different experience, but I face more racism in America than I face abroad.
However, right, no, there's a whole lot of racism abroad, and if you don't believe me, I can send you proof of how all these different ethnicities abroad, how racist they are against Black Americans. I got tons of proof of that.
Racism's everywhere, man. It's everywhere.
Okay, well, if it's everywhere, then that means that it's abroad too, just like you just mentioned that it wasn't.
Yeah, I just haven't faced it there. I haven't experienced it there, but I experience it here all the time.
I know some brothers and sisters that have experienced it there, even though I personally haven't experienced it there either. Okay, but I'm not going to discount the racism that I know brothers and sisters have experienced in some of those places. And plus, I hear the stuff that these people say about us when we are not around.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right. Cool, Brother Lee. What's going on in Minneapolis, man? You know I got to ask.
Say, bro, I've been wanting to call you about that a long time ago, bro. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. People was, and especially when they was up here acting a complete fool up here. I mean, they was doing the most up here, bro. And you know that too. I know you heard about that. You know, but that's a story for another day, bro. That's something I gotta break down to you and tell you what's going on and let you know everything that's happening, right? Because I know some of the news media wasn't really telling y'all the full accurate details of everything that was going on down here. But I'm not going to change the subject of this program right now to talk about that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Okay.
We'll catch up.
All right, we'll catch up.
All right, my brother. Good to hear from you.
Peace.
All right. T-Bone.
Good evening, y'all. How you doing?
Good, brother. What's going on with you?
So, interesting discussion. I'm not going to debate back and forth with the brother. The brother feel the way he do. I will say this, though. Me and my African coworker was looking at the Summer Olympics. And what we noticed is there was a lot of different athletes who looked African but had a authentic surname from their country, be it Germany, be it Norway, be it Switzerland. It didn't matter. And the brother said the same thing I was thinking. And I'm going to do his Nigerian accent as best I can. Our seeds is everywhere. See, we're not the only ones that's probably of pure descent in their present country is the Africans. You meet an African who was born and raised in Africa, 9 times out of 10, they can tell you their whole bloodline. You understand? Now, there are some that were colonized, and they're not pure sub-Saharan or whatever part of Africa they are. So all of us are mutts, even the ones sitting in the White House, because they don't have blonde hair and blue eyes. They wish they did and could say, oh, I'm pure Anglo-Saxon and my people were Norse, and it's no. Dr. Felix James said it best. There is no pure white race, no pure black race. There is no pure race on the planet. Now, you do have the exceptions to the rule. People in Africa, people in Asia whose family lines never left those continents. But for the most part, our seed is everywhere.
I have to agree with you because of centuries of migration, trade, colonization, and the transatlantic slave trade. People of African ancestry now live on every continent.
Yes. Now, what they do agree upon, and this is scientifically proven, the original woman's DNA came out of Africa. It's called the Eve gene, brothers and sisters. Look it up. People that's from Africa, whose family lines never left Africa, whose people did not get enslaved, were not colonized by the Europeans, have the Eve gene. Look it up. Now, on to this thing. Let's not fool ourselves. Racism is throughout the world. But you can't sit up there and allow that to dictate your life. You can't. I went to Germany about a year or so ago, and I didn't know what to expect. I got a friend that's lived out there for 20 years, black, graduated with me from SUNO in computers. He was in the military out there, and he met his wife out there. She is Iranian. She was a flight attendant, but she decided to settle in Germany while he was here finishing up getting his degree. When he got his degree, he continued to be an American citizen, but he left out there to live. So when we went to Oktoberfest, we visited him. And let me tell you something. For all that people talk about with the Nazis and stuff, those German people, they ain't about Nazis. And if a Nazi or neo-Nazi tries to get out in the street and start some stuff right now, my friend said, look, if one of them come out, 20 Germans going to come up and beat the crap out of him because they hate the fact that that is a part of their history. Now, that's not to say that they don't have racism out there, because we were 4 black spots in the room of an Oktoberfest festival, and at first they looked at us strange, wondering why we was there. But when we started drinking it, everybody was cool. You know what I'm saying?
You had your lager beer?
Bro, when they say a pint, it ain't that little bitty square thing that you see milk come in.
Oh, I know, and they got it
It's
in the
a nice
big glass
tall
mugs.
glass
Yep.
of beer.
As you
And
drinking that Riesling
foamed it.
again.
You understand what I'm saying? And guess what? Because I had a good time with those 4 friends, if they say they were going back in the next couple of years, I would go because I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed being with those dudes and going to Oktoberfest. And the people in Germany were cool. They were not racist. They didn't look at us sideways, and nobody checked nobody's rear for a tail. However, we have a country that is being run by one of the most racist human beings we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
So why are we sitting up here frazzled about this?
Frazzled? I think frazzled might be a little bit too strong.
You know, look, I just believe
No,
that
I just think that more than anything else, you got to look at people that are trying to prove a point and also saying what's right and what's wrong. I don't think it's anybody frazzled on the conversation.
No, I truly believe that you cannot realistically run away to a place where prejudice does not exist.
But correct it when it's
Right.
there.
Racism, bias, intolerance appear in every country and in culture in different forms, some more openly than others.
Yeah.
The real
Yeah.
question is how people protect their dignity and build environments where they are respected, how we react to racism when we see it, how we call it out,
Precisely.
you know, how we
How do
set
we
it
deal with
straight, how we deal with
Yes.
it. Because history shows that, you know, you can't move away from racism. Human prejudice can exist anywhere, and running from it doesn't solve the problem. I've always been one to address racism head on and call it out when I see it.
And if you run away from it, what it does is it just grows worse.
Well, if you run away from it too, it wins.
Mm-hmm.
It wins.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to allow it to win, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And see, for a long, long time, people could sit up there and claim that racism was gone in this country. No, it wasn't. Instead of it being out in the open, it was at the kitchen table, like all in the family. It was at the family barbecues. You understand? For all races. You understand? You have Indians that are racist. You have whites that are racist. You have Asians that are racist. You have blacks that are racist. It exists. What we have to do as a people is teach our children beyond it. That's the way that thing goes away. Because it's not something you're born with. It's something you're taught to people.
Yep, that is true. All right, T-Bone, let's take these other calls, brother. Appreciate you, man.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Later.
Always appreciate T-Bone's perspective.
Kevin?
Oh, yeah. Hey, as always, man, thank y'all for having these conversations because they're important. Now, I'm saying that because this is really, we have to start being elevated in our thought process. We got enough evidence to do that. There is only one race, the human race. And all the signs that we know today, is all our parents come from Africa. Consequently, we can infer they have melanin, they're dark skin. Recessive, after hundreds of thousands of years of evolution and the continents separating and environmental factors setting in, have changed elements of our human family to have certain physical appearances, straight hair, light color eyes, light skin, but they still are human beings, okay? Okay, like the brother said, some of us were in place for longer where the environmental factors promote melanin in Africa, which is where all our family comes from. So until we start realizing the issue is not our appearances, the issue is how sociopathic that we treat our relatives. And it's not that only white people have their issues. It's how sociopathic white people are, but toward those who aren't white. But black folks are just as dismissive and quit talking about everybody racist. That's why I say we have to start thinking elevated, or else people just gonna dismiss us, and we setting it up for ourselves to be dismissed. The bottom line is this: when you start talking about definitions and words and using words, please use them the right way. If you write something and you use the wrong definition for a word, they're gonna call you on it. To be racist, you have to have power to influence your will over people that you falsely say aren't in your family.
Your comments that you just made are feeding into an issue being raised on our Facebook Live right now. And so I'm going to pose the question to you. Someone has asked on social media, can Black Americans be racist? What is your view on that?
They can't, because they don't have the power to be racist. They can't influence
I think Black people can be
to impose
prejudiced.
their wills on people. Only people who have power to impose their wills in society and make it law and all that kind of stuff are the only people who can be racist. Now, we can be prejudiced.
I think it raises a great question, and I think you're right. We have to be very careful in our words. So it depends on how people define racism. So I think we need to distinguish between the words prejudice, bias, and systemic racism. At the most basic level, any person of any race can hold prejudiced beliefs or negative stereotypes about another group. So in that sense, yes, Black Americans, like anyone else, can express a racial bias or prejudice.
No other race can be racist if there's only one race, a human race. The only people who can be racist are the ones who falsely impose their wills on people based on the artificial political construct of race. There's only one race. Our parents are Black. All of them came from Africa. All our parents came from Africa. Everybody on the planet came from Africa.
And, you know, the definition of racism is, you know, some scholars define racism as prejudice plus systemic power. So what you're saying is right on point in terms of the research, actually, that meaning racism involves systems that historically give one group the power to enforce discrimination through institutions like housing, education, policing, or employment.
All right, Kevin, we got a rule, brother.
Y'all do.
Appreciate the call, brother. Thanks again. All right, we got more coming up, y'all. Take a break.
It's an interesting.
Hoops, Heat, The Truth, On Demand. Ball Don't Lie is now live on all podcast platforms. Tap in, search WBOK Media, find Ball Don't Lie, and bring the fire with you wherever you go. Download, share, and leave that 5-star review, because the game doesn't stop when the show ends.
LifeCare provides valuable whole life insurance to cover final expenses such as medical bills, burial costs, and unpaid debt. A final expense insurance policy is fast, easy, affordable life insurance that's available to anyone between the ages of 50 and 80. No medical exams, no lengthy questionnaires, and no waiting period. The application process is quick and easy. You can even apply without having to undergo a medical examination. Just answer a few questions and we'll do the rest. With the average funeral cost skyrocketing to $11,000 and Social Security only paying $255, you need simple, affordable peace of mind for you and your whole family. Don't leave behind unpaid expenses that, if left unattended, will burden your family tremendously. Benefits include a guaranteed premium that will never increase, a guaranteed cash value, and a guaranteed death benefit that can never decrease. To find out how you can get final expense insurance with a guaranteed lifetime rate lock, call LifeCare at 800-571-9955. That's 800-571-9955. 800-571-9955.
From Gentilly to New Orleans East, WBOK is what New Orleans is talking about.
WBOK.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back.
Interesting conversation. We
Happening
started
on-
off talking about the St. Patrick's Day parade and the racist behavior that we saw exhibited at the parade, and delved into a conversation then about whether or not black people should have been at the parade. And then it went into a conversation of whether or not there are black Irish people in the world and whether people, I don't know, a very interesting conversation of whether black people can be racist.
Nah, I don't think so. I think it'd be prejudice. I don't think so. Racist, though. Pop Jones.
Hey, G-Man and Attorney Bagnarius.
You behaving today?
What else can I do at this point?
I don't know. I'm just trying to check
Can't
up
do
on
nothing
you.
but behave.
What's your perspective on all of this? What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what just my little experience I had many years ago when I was in the military. I went as a young teenager, and every soldier that I know in my company and the guys that I know, guess where they wanted to go?
Where they want to go?
To Germany.
They want to go to Germany?
Yes.
Well, when you were in the military, didn't that, because I saw this in several different conversation pieces that talk about history. I've seen a couple of movies. But the German folks were particularly interested in black men because of the fact that there was a rumor
G-Man.
that they had
You could the stories we used to hear. A black man went to Germany, was treated like the king of England, and them guys would come back and tell it.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody wanted to go to Germany. That was even.
But why did they want to go to?
a
Why
lot
did
of
they
them-
want to go
I
to
don't-
Germany? Because they
of
were
the way
treated.
the women.
Because
See,
they were
over
treated
in
like
Germany, I
kings?
tell you what I want to tell you a short story. Guys was able to live off base, and a lot of the German women and stuff were. They had. Let me see how that went. They had I was able to meet them. I don't know how it was, but I can't remember the stories exactly. But a lot of guys, I know guys died over there. They got married and they never came back to the States,
Did you go to Germany?
as we call it.
Bob
No,
Jones is protecting the
they
innocent.
didn't let me go because I was a young teenager. at
Oh,
the
okay,
time.
all right. So you did not go.
No, I went. Guess where I wound up going?
Where'd you
ain't
go?
gonna believe it. Greenland,
Yes, indeed.
land of the midnight sun.
Mm.
24 hours of sunshine.
Now I was going to say, y'all got what, 6 months, maybe 6 months of
6 months of sunshine and 6
6
months
months
of
of
night.
darkness, right?
Well, we would only go in the daytime. With the
While
6
you were
months.
in Greenland, did you experience overt racism?
Well, the reason why we didn't experience it, because we didn't come in contact with nobody.
You're on the base.
With
Oh, you were on the
Eskimos.
base. You didn't actually go out and interact with the people
No,
from Greenland.
in other words, the only people we came in contact with, and they were living up in the mountains at that time.
Mm.
Denmark was that's their own Greenland. Okay, so our company barber, he used to cut the king, the leader, family haircut. Well, we didn't really react with the people from Denmark and the Eskimos. It was back when I went over. We was working and building an air base at that time. So, in other words, America has had their hands on Greenland forever, since after the Second World War.
Mm.
So, in other words, they've had building bases, and the reason for it, Greenland is only 500 miles from the Russian border. And America has been involved in Greenland forever.
What years was this, Pop?
This was in the 60s.
When were you there?
70s, 60s.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question, Pop. You've been on this planet for a minute here. Can you tell our listeners about the first time you personally experienced racism in America?
All my life. I was raised up in Algiers. And I had white people right in the block with me. Never went in their yard. Across the street from me. So I've witnessed racism all my life. Never played with them. Nothing. And they live right in the block with me.
You have
over in Algiers.
You have lived through so many different eras in this country. How is racism today different from what you experienced when you were younger? Have things improved?
In what respect, Tony? As far as, well, I tell you what, my opinion is this, that my concern have always been coming up how we feel towards one another. Racism has made me stronger, and I've never really, I've had one of my best friends I ever had in my life was white. And I lost contact with him. He used to live here. I had to ask him. I said, man, do you realize I'm black? I don't remember what he said. I said, something wrong with you.
Why
the
you
way
thought
he
something was wrong
treated
with
me,
him?
his wife. I held his daughter in my arms when she was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess everybody have different experiences, you know. But I've been through Jim Crow and all of them. I know Rudy Lombard, Big Duck, and all of them. And sitting at the Woolworth counter, you couldn't have when they had. Y'all might not know nothing about that.
Yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, I know a young lady that was sitting at the counter.
We know it, but you lived it. And that's why I'm asking you, since you lived it, have you seen things improve dramatically? Or in other ways, have they just changed the way they present racism today?
Well, you know, my philosophy, attorney, is we could have solved a lot of our problems yesterday. I'm talking about black people. People that claim to be black, whatever you think you are. We could have solved a lot of our problems yesterday. Because number one, where I was raised, my mother, I was raised mostly by 3 black women. My daddy was kind of like a Rolling Stone. So I was raised, my mother raised me, first of all, to love my brother and sister. And so that's the way I was raised. So I know my experience is not the other people, but the way we treat one another.
Okay. All right.
See, we came up hard, and we had to go in the garden and do all kind of stuff.
Right.
So we survivors.
Right. I think that's
good
for
for
everybody. All of us who call somebody that's probably African American a survivor. But Pop, I got to take my break. I appreciate the call, though. Thanks
you, my friend. Thanks for taking my call, yeah.
All right, sir. Thank you much. All right, we got to take a break here. We'll come back. Miss Elmore, hold on. We're coming back to you. More coming up next, y'all.
From the campus of Xavier University.
Yeah.
WBOK Go and Equity Media Station.
Here's what's trending this hour. President Trump has tapped Vice President J.D. Vance to lead a new federal task force targeting benefits fraud. The move follows a major social services scam uncovered in Minnesota that led to dozens of indictments. At the Oval Office Monday, Trump said fraud occurs in both red and blue states, but claimed it's more prevalent in Democrat-led states, again criticizing the Somali community in Minneapolis and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. I'm Bree Wood with What's Trending.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Interesting conversation today there, counselor. Interesting conversation.
I always like to hear the perspectives of older African Americans who have lived through the civil rights movement and Jim Crow and all of that. And what I always like to hear from them is, has racism today, is it different today than it was what you experienced when you were younger? And in some ways, has it just changed form?
So the conversation has changed about 500 ways today.
It has, but it's been interesting. I'm learning a lot.
Because one of the things, too, that I did hear, and I was reading up a couple of things that we started off with, and a lot of folks were talking about, oh, Germany, we went to Germany, and in Germany, we love Germany, But I think we forget, though, that was Adolf Hitler who ran Germany, who killed the Jews, 6 million of them. We forget that when we did the Olympics, that the black man standing on the podium after he won, holding up his fist, was a black man from America. And he was showing, I guess, the world, including Hitler, that we had the power to win. So there's a whole lot to digest in this conversation. I will tell you that. What you say, Mr. Elmore?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I had the privilege to go to Vietnam, Germany, and Korea. And I experienced racism you wouldn't believe in Vietnam. I was a kid, 18 years old. Never experienced it. So I went to Vietnam, believe it or not. And how I experienced it, I found myself leave my compound. Didn't supposed to leave my compound, mischievous. Left my compound, went downtown to the village. And, you know, it was known in the day that Vietnamese women would have clubs. That one would be for Afro-Americans, one would be Hispanics, one would be for white folks. And I noticed as soon as I walked in, anytime I hear yahoos in there with Confederate flags, I know I didn't belong there. But a Vietnamese girl told me y'all didn't belong there. And I said, you have to kick me out. So we wound up, I'm not going to lie to you, I did have a fight, you know, in the report to the MPs and all, which that's Vietnam. That was wartime. So, but I experienced racism when I went to Vietnam, believe it or not.
How did that moment in Vietnam shape the way you saw the world?
It shaped my way to think that minorities, you'd be surprised how minorities, people that we keep on saying people of color, and I have a very philosophical difference with that, because people in color don't align themselves with us. I don't know why we're pushing that. I'm for people of all walks of life, cultures, colors, races. I find that Hispanics, believe it or not, Asians, especially Vietnamese. I mean, I don't need to tell you this. When you look at who voted for Trump, Asian Americans, primarily Vietnamese, Hispanics. Now, culture, you're going to laugh the way I say this. Culture and race is very complicated. And you might say, well, why is it complicated? You've been in that cold. Someone that's from Puerto Rico that looks like me, my skin is light. You've been there called Hispanic. They're going to want to fight. Because even though they have the Spanish language, different dialect than Hispanics from Mexico, they don't consider themselves, they consider themselves white. That's why if you notice, you look at those old actors in the day, they had Hispanic names. They changed their name to English because they didn't want to identify with anybody of color. So racism today is not, it's not undercover. You know, with Trump in there, it's getting more obvious on things that you hear people say and things that he said, you know?
Now, I just think that it was undercover, and then probably a lot of copycats felt that it was okay for them to say what they really felt because he does. So he's leading the way, and they're just following right behind him.
We can't miss the point that the young men on the float in the St. Patrick's Day parade were teenagers.
They are
So
following
this is
somebody
learned
else.
behavior.
Yeah, they're following somebody
This
else.
must be acceptable conversation in their home.
Yep.
Well, the thing that I'm gonna share this with you. One of the reasons why I love Jesse Jackson, because I was a young man at the time, and the military was one of the most kindest for Afro American men. I joined some other brothers, and we had an organization called BB Black Brothers United. And really, what it was doing, it wasn't anti-American, it wasn't anti-military. It was trying to get the military establishment to understand that you have to have racial equity in the military. We won't be treated fairly. We want to grow our hair. We want to dap. We want to go to clubs that we felt familiar with. It doesn't mean it was anti-establishment, anti-white, anti-military. And when we started the organization, the military, the senior NCOs, officers understood it. And I think they kind of established where I was a program to have diversity. Understand language, understand culture, race. And I think that was one of the reasons why the military was a little more acceptance, at least when I was in after Vietnam, try to get a better understanding of race equality,
Well, it's the same thing at PWIs. There's always a Black Student Union formed to address, social, culture, and political needs of Black students who often find themselves isolated or underrepresented on those campuses. So I understand. I mean, you all forming BBU and, these students forming BSUs. It's trying to find people who share common ground with you and making a system understand that you too have needs and you too want your needs met.
All right, Mr. Elmore.
And again, add one more thing. But when you look at the federal government, to be honest, was ahead of the curve in terms of race relations. That's why Trump hates the federal government, because the federal government, I'm going back a little before I was born, when Roosevelt was the president, and go read it up. Just don't believe what I say. Roosevelt, he passed a law in terms on Afro Americans, men and women, to work in factories and all, because they were denying Black folks jobs in the private sector where the white folks had those jobs under the war plan to prepare us for war. So again, the federal government was ahead of the curve. They kind of slip and sliding a little bit right now. But in terms of racial equity, federal government was the key.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Elmore. Appreciate you much, man.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Stephen. Stephen?
Yeah. Hi, hello. How you doing?
Good. How you can do? I can barely hear you.
Okay. Let me see, because I'm talking from us. Can you hear me now?
Gotcha.
Hear you a little better now. Yes.
Okay. Okay. President Trump recently changed the rules of minority businesses, where you now have to prove that you've been discriminated against. And I'm having a problem with trying to figure out what's his angle or how I should approach that.
Okay.
So my question is, are there some organization out there that's helping minority businesses meet the standards that he's trying to set?
What minority benefits are you talking about?
Okay. I take, for example, at the airport, I was part of the Minority Business Set-Aside Program. Trump kind of put an end to that, saying that I have to prove that I was discriminated against now. And so most recently, where do I go to prove to him that I was discriminated against?
So you got rid of, would that be DEI?
He got rid of the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program by removing automatic race and gender presumptions for eligibility. And now he requires applicants to prove individual social and economic disadvantage. The change ends to align the program, he says, with constitutional standards affecting how minority and women-owned firms secure contracts. So that's what you're talking about. And so now business
That's what
owners
I'm
must
talking
now
about.
submit a personal narrative proving specific instances of discrimination or hardship that hindered their business progress. That's what you need to do. I would suggest you contact the Black Chamber of Commerce here in New Orleans and ask them for assistance in drafting your personal narrative, your individualized proof, to satisfy the new criteria under the U.S. Department of Transportation's program. The Black Chamber of Commerce. Let me see if I can find a telephone number for you for that. I think they can help you.
I'll look it up with that. Thank you for that information.
I have it. It's 504-948-0991. I'm going to repeat it again. 504-948-0991. That's the New Orleans Regional Black Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Stephen.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, Dono.
Huh?
Dono.
Yeah, how you doing? You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in segregation, bro, and I was one of the ones that desegregated West Jefferson High School. You know, and but I went to Vietnam, and a lot of times Americans don't understand other people's culture, you know, and you got to learn people's culture too. And I went to Germany after Vietnam. A friend of mine said, "You must have done somebody something when they send you from Germany, from Vietnam to Germany." But they seem to fear black men. Okay, not the women now, but the men.
Who's fearing black men?
The Germans. You know, even the Vietnamese kind of fear the black man. You know, but I had a little problem. But in Germany, they had a few guys that would live off base with the German women. You know, they seem to like black men. You know, and not just Germany. I had R&R in Australia, Sydney, Australia. And them women just be running down the black men, you know. And I think that's the fear of the white man.
Taking their women.
That the white man, that the white women like black men, you see. And, they think we sexually we're superior, but that's not necessarily true, you know. But the experience in Germany, they try to figure out black men, you know. But I had a pretty good time in Germany, you know. I used to go downtown, got tired of eating eating on the base, so I go downtown to one of their restaurants, and they have some good food, you know. And I sat down at the restaurant, everybody started looking. So racism is all over.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah, you can't run and you can't hide from it. You just have to address it when it occurs.
Yeah, you know. Yeah, you got to you got to have respect for yourself, but they would look all over. I just sat down and ate the food. It was good, but I remember one time we went off base. They had a thing with German and American relationship with the troops. And we had a time. I drank that so much wine. And the beer over there, you drink 2 beers, you get drunk.
Yes, indeed. That's lager beer.
Huh?
That's that lager.
Yeah, that beer. We used to go on camp out to in the woods and stuff. Then after we set up all our equipment and stuff, we sneak through the woods and find a beer place and drink beer. After you drink 1 or 2 beers, you ready. You don't want to drink too many more because you be falling out.
But did you go through any type of racism while you were there?
Well, it wasn't no outright racism, but you knew it was there. Knew it was there. But we had the freedom to go to the clubs and stuff like that. And the only thing, it was in the wintertime, it just was so cold, for me, because I come from South Louisiana, and I had to adjust to that coldness, But what's good about it is the military give you the kind of clothes that are full, that 100% wool stuff.
Okay.
And you put that on, you go to sweating and stuff, keep you warm. But it wasn't a bad thing. You had a lot of freedom. I got married and I brought my wife over there. And we had a real good time. We stayed off base, and when I had to go to the field, I had somebody to check on her, one of my friends in the military. The military is, when I was in Vietnam, is where a lot of the black soldiers stuck together. And it carried on throughout the military, with the dapping, and they look after each other. I was a combat medic, and I had a platoon that I had to look at. But when I got there in the company, I had to take care of not just my platoon, but the other platoon. They all come to me, the black soldiers and stuff. But the soldiers are united. But now in the military, when I just began to leave the military, the blacks and the whites get along real well in the military.
Really?
You might see a white woman with her children and black children together, looking after them after, when the black parents might be out in the field of in training or something, they look after each other, and a lot of times they become lifelong friends, but military is a lot different than out here in civilian life. You got to get together to exist,
Okay.
But,
all right, Donald, we got to take our break, brother.
All right. Okay.
I appreciate you, my friend. Always good to hear from you, too. How you doing?
All right.
You doing all right?
Oh, yeah, man, I'm struggling a little bit now. I had a hospitalization. And
I hear you talking a little bit slower right now.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. I'm just low. My sinus bothering me now.
Okay. I'm just checking on you.
All right. Y'all take care, bro.
All right, you too, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
Today.
All right. Everybody hold tight. We got more coming up in just a few minutes, yo.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat. Cities across the country are struggling to provide affordable housing. But New Rochelle, a city just a train ride away from Manhattan, is working on a new approach that's bolstering affordable places to live. Led by Mayor Yadira Ramos-Herbert, the New Rochelle model is responsible for adding over 4,500 new housing units, with an additional 6,500 units on the way. Mayor Ramos-Herbert spoke to Bloomberg about how the city is using public-private partnerships and more to make it all happen.
We worked with the community here. What do you want to see in New Rochelle? And through our public-private partnership, we've enhanced plazas, we've brought murals, we've increased EV charging stations, we've bought a black box theater right to our main street, we're opening parklets. And so really working together, providing assurances to developers, everybody essentially wins. Never mind that rents are actually holding steady and actually decrease the median rent.
Mayor Ramos-Herbert is the first woman and first person of color to become mayor of New Rochelle. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Want consistent color for every job? Milo's Pro Rewards members get a 20% paint discount on future purchases after paint annual qualifying spend reaches $3,000. Plus, order eligible in-stock paint and paint supplies by 2 p.m. for free same-day delivery by 8 p.m. Improving is easy at Lowe's. Excludes spray paint and mist tints. More exclusions, terms, and conditions apply. Subject to change. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Same-day delivery valid in select zip codes. Subject to driver availability. Details at Lowe's.com/same-day delivery.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
It's off the top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
The New Orleans City Council recently lambasted 2 parade crews for despicable acts of incivility, and rightfully so. You know, Mardi Gras is supposed to bring out the best in New Orleans. Families gather along parade routes. Children sit high on ladders hoping to catch their first beads. Neighbors laugh, share food, and celebrate a tradition that belongs to all of us. But this year, a few disgraceful actions have reminded us that even our greatest celebration can be tarnished by thoughtless behavior. One parade rider reportedly threw a whiskey bottle into the crowd, striking a 4-year-old child in the head and sending that child to the hospital for stitches. And in another parade, riders tossed dolls, widely condemned as racist imagery, into a crowd that included black children. That is not Mardi Gras. Riders are given a special privilege to represent their crews and take part in a celebration watched by the entire world. But privilege comes with responsibility. Throwing beads is tradition. Throwing bottles is reckless. Throwing racist imagery is shameful. The vast majority of crews understand that, and they work hard to preserve the joy and spirit of Carnival. But those who abuse the privilege of riding in our parades dishonor the tradition itself. Mardi Gras should leave children smiling, not injured, and not humiliated. Because the real spirit of Carnival isn't just celebration. It's community, respect, and common decency. And New Orleans should never settle for anything less. Mardi Gras is one of the greatest traditions this city has ever given the world. But every great tradition comes with responsibility. And those who dismiss that responsibility shouldn't be riding in our parades. This is Norman Robinson off the top.
Hey everybody, it's Graylin Bryant Banks.
And Kimber White Dupree.
From the front porch, y'all. You know how we do every Monday. It's Movie Monday.
And Tuesday is Trivia Tuesday.
And y'all know we have nothing but bad cheering coming through here on Wednesday.
But stick with us. On Thursday, we travel.
That's right. And Friday's Free Your Mind Friday, so get your brass up.
Something on your mind? Want to get it off your chest?
Holla at your people. WBOK 1230 AM, the station you listen to.
All day long.
Tired of the impersonal, one-size-fit-all style of banking? You deserve a bank that delivers exceptional service and personalized attention to your needs. That's the Home Bank Standard. Since 1908, Home Bank has been a trusted financial partner for businesses and families because we go the extra mile to help you reach your goals. See for yourself why Home Bank is good for business, good for life. Stop by any New Orleans area location or find out more at home24bank.com. Home Bank, member FDIC.
The Historic New Orleans Collection presents a new exhibition open through June 7th, 2026. The Trail They Blazed. Built collaboratively with people who participated in the local civil rights movement, The Trail They Blazed presents stories of social and racial justice straight from the people who lived them. Listen to leaders tell their stories of resistance and persistence in their own voices, recorded by the Historic New Orleans Collection. Plan your visit to 520 Royal Street in the French Quarter and reserve your free tickets at hnoc.org today.
Welcome to Chemical of the Month from the Community Scientist and Rise St. James. This month's focus is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs, formed when fuels like oil, gas, wood, or trash are burned. These chemicals can enter the air we breathe and settle into our soil and water. Many PAHs are known carcinogens, adding to the health burdens faced by communities living near industry. Learn how to protect your health at risestjames.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back. What was today? Tuesday?
I don't even know.
I thought the day was Thursday.
It's Taco Tuesday.
Well, are we gonna celebrate that? Are we allowed to eat tacos on Taco Tuesday?
I might go to Ideal.
You might what?
I might go over to Ideal and get some tacos.
Are we allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
You don't belong over there.
I don't belong.
Are you supposed to celebrate Cinco de Mayo?
No. Look who you're talking to. You belong. You can belong.
I mean, I can't deny it. I'm part Latino.
I want to know how many black people are going to
it.
be getting their margaritas and their daiquiris on Cinco de Mayo. Who's doing that? Who's getting their tacos on Taco Tuesday?
Oh, God, let me answer the phone. Galloway.
What's going on, Brother Gerod?
Oh, bro. Yes, indeed. What's happening?
Oh, man, you just said Cinco de Mayo. Black people, you should celebrate Cinco de Mayo. If you know your history, the Battle of Puebla, the reason why the Mexicans and the peasants actually fought the French at that battle there, because the French had went around the blockade to come up to get their money from the Confederates to give them weapons and men to fight to keep black people enslaved. And the Mexicans fought them and defeated them at that battle.
So let me put that in the column. Cinco de Mayo, good. St. Patrick's Day, bad.
No, well, I don't know what holidays you really consider bad, but anything Confederate is horrible. But you talked about the Black Irish. You had Black Irish and Black Scottish people. They've been in those countries for over 500 years.
Correct.
Now, and both countries now they average about 62,000 in Scotland, about 65,000 in Ireland. They've been there for centuries. So
exactly. So you know what? I'm gonna celebrate my St. Patrick's Day, and then I'm gonna go to Cinco de Mayo, and I'm gonna have my tacos and my margarita.
Yeah, I mean, I embrace it all. Now, not everybody's going to embrace you, but remember who you are and where you come
That's
from.
all right, baby. I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but it's piping hot. It's piping hot.
Because it's a city in Scotland that I visit with the last name of Galloway. But nobody in that city last name is Galloway. That is the craziest stuff to me. And like they explained to me, the people who left from Scotland really didn't have last names back then. So you were John of Galloway. So when you got to the United States, you became John Galloway or James Galloway or whatever. But, I'm not related to none of them folks and nothing like that. I always tell people I'm half Mandingo, half Zulu, so I don't, but I embrace everybody's stuff, man. But I was stationed in Germany, and thank you so much for letting the Vietnam veterans talk. They need to get their stories out and let us hear what they went through. Because, at the time that they were fighting, America was still segregated when a lot of those young men, now they are seniors, went over there. So I know there had to be just a culture shock to go to Vietnam or to Germany and places where you were treated better, sometimes worse, or sometimes neutral, and then come back to the United States. And some of them came back because a lot of them stayed over there. And, you had to go through segregation again. So thank you for letting them speak, man. But when I was in Germany, I tell people all the time, man, I had to be the drunkest human on earth. I used to get on trains, and I would end up in different countries because that's how small Germany is. One of the first weekends I got there, I got on after a night of drinking, I ended up in Orleans, Paris, off a train. Had a ball. Couldn't speak a lick of language that nobody was speaking. But I turned to be the life of the party, and they enjoyed me. And they showed me how to get back and everything else. Yeah, I had some crazy times overseas. I tell people, you do not want to party with me. Back then. Now I'm too old now. I just drink 40s and go to sleep. So, but getting back to why those young kids, in my opinion, why they doing this stuff, look at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Everything that this man does, they try to replicate it on to the smallest level. And if a woman is wearing a Trump dress, that woman Stevie Wonder could see better than she could see. She is not going to do anything to those young boys, man. But I ain't going to hold y'all long, and I ain't going to tell y'all never wrong. I'm going to get off the phone, man. Y'all have a good day. Galloway up out of here.
All right, Galloway.
I'm enjoying the stories from the servicemen today because the bottom line is Black Americans have served in every American war, often while facing discrimination at home. And the same is true for those who are serving in the military today. Mm-hmm. You know, the military is fully integrated, and many Black troops serve with distinction in the Middle East right now. But the conversation continues about how to ensure that every service person is treated fairly abroad and at home. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm wondering how those who are in the Middle East are being treated right now.
In the Middle East?
Yeah. How are they being received over there?
I think more so than anything right now, anybody that has American, whether you're Black, white, or any other nationality, anything American, you got to watch what you're doing.
You got to watch what you're doing.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Sanyika.
Good afternoon, Brother G and Madam Counsel.
How you doing, brother?
Well, I've been, recovering from all of the things I went through over the last several months, and the multiple deaths in my family and a medical issue that I had. But I'm recovering from that. I just went through the Jesse Jackson experience. I've known Jesse since 1968, and I had a good, very positive relationship with that brother when he was a young man, and I was a young man, and we were both hellraisers kicking door downs. Of course, in New Orleans, I grew up in the civil rights movement, along with people like Rayfield Casimir, and we were the ones who organized the demonstrations to desegregate Woolworths, as well as to initiate the boycotts on riots, what was then riots. Mm-hmm. It's now a rep for Castle Haley. But that was a period where what we might call structural segregation by design was the way that New Orleans worked. And we were determined as young students to eradicate. And so we organized the students from SUNO as well as the students from UNO and the students from Xavier and the students from Dillard, where I was. We organized the demonstrations to basically to destroy racial segregation, what we would today call institutional racism. But I want to make sure people don't confuse institutional racism with prejudice. Prejudice is something that exists within human beings because of differences between people. And people are different everywhere you go. No two people are the same. No group is the same. The cultures are different. The histories are different. The life mission is different, and people have the right to like and dislike things about other people. That's human. That's normal. But the problem is if you begin to overlay that with a value system that lets you believe you are superior and somebody else is inferior, that's when you, I think, have the greatest degree of problem, because then you begin to allocate values based on your worldview at the expense of someone else, and that always runs into difficulty. Now, the racism is basically a substitute for social discrimination, and fundamentally, racism at an institutional level, at a systemic level, is about the allocation of resources. That's what causes the like and the dislike in the first place is access to resources that you need to survive. In any country and anywhere you go, there will be some people who have more of the resources than other people. And if that's based on color distinctions, for instance, then you'll find prejudice there. And if that resource distinction is institutionalized, where there are policies and procedures that make sure that one group gets the access and another doesn't, then you're talking about the distribution of power, which is where racism becomes such a difficult problem and such a detriment to human development, and such a difficulty that can lead to wars and other kinds of problems as we see them. So there's this whole complex that you have to navigate when you live in a country like America or go to places in Europe or other places, that you have to navigate what you're looking at, whether you're looking at something that is institutional or systemic racism, as the Caribbeans would tell you is the case in many parts of Europe, or if you're looking at it here in the United States, we have all kinds of different levels of institutional racism as well as prejudice, and they're not the same thing. But you'll find prejudice, everywhere you go in America. There's no place in America where there's not prejudice, and I recognize that. I've lived everywhere and taught in 12 different universities around the country over my 50-year career, and I've seen it everywhere, and I've seen it abroad as well. But it's learning how to cope and adjust with it in terms of who you are as a human being, your who-ness, your isness, your what-ness. Where do you come from, and what have you contributed to society that allows you to understand where you fit in the scheme of things, and how somebody disliking you does not define your reality. It does not define your humanity. So that's one of the things I learned growing up in New Orleans at an early age. It didn't matter what white people thought, because I knew who I was, and everything around me reinforced the concept that I had value, I had worth, and I had purpose in life. And so whatever some white person on the other side of St. Claude Avenue, whatever that person thought about me really was not relevant, and it didn't matter, because I knew that though we lived in a segregated society and I went to segregated schools, I knew that I was being taught by some of the best at Joseph Samuel Clark High School. I knew that I was dealing with competency, and I knew I was being prepared to leave high school and go and do something with my life that would make a difference. And that's exactly what happened, because I went to Dillard and graduated with distinction when I went there. I left there. I went to Boston University for graduate school at a time that I was the only black person in the department that I was studying in at that time. Then I went on to Harvard and MIT, where I also became members of the faculty.
But Dr. Sanyika, and not to cut you off, I apologize, but there are a lot of young men and young women that don't have the same aptitude as you do, because you knew who you were. I guess that was instilled in you. We got a lot of young ladies and a lot of young men out here today. They lost. They're not picking up the books. They don't care. They're out here in the streets, and their moms and dads don't care. And honestly, I was talking to one of the folks with education. I'm not going to call her name right now, but she was talking to me about reading and writing and knowing arithmetic. And I said, it's easy to get your kids to try to understand reading, writing, and arithmetic. But what we got to do is, when we start looking at these kids and they have some type of deficiency, we need to understand more than likely that it's not that they don't learn it in school. It's the fact that their parents are probably deficient as well. They can't read. They can't write.
I think those observations do have some merit, because the home environment is critical to the development of a human being.
So before I can sit up and really chastise anyone, and I know that's a bad word to use when we start talking about education, but we really got to start looking at some of the parents, because some of the parents, they don't have the groundwork. to teach their own kids.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. And we saw this during the COVID period, where learning moved from in-class teaching to the machine, or to the computerized education. The whole of computer education and digital education was introduced during the COVID period, and many of the parents did not know how to use the computers, and some of the children knew more about that than the parents did.
There's
But
a learning curve there. There is a learning curve.
Fact. But at the same time, the process of learning is changing from when I went to school, and my mother was not an expert at computers. There were no computers then. She was not a mathematician or a scientist. But I had a mother who wanted to make sure that I learned. I had a parent who wanted to make sure that I got it, that I went to school, I got up, I did what I was supposed to do, I went to school and I learned. And I respected my teachers and my educators. I went to church and did the same thing. So what you're also talking about is the problem with the value system in terms of whether or not a parent is motivated to assist the child in the learning process and what they believe about learning. There's been a shift, no doubt. I think there's been more materialization of our values that leads parents and others to the conclusion of that what you are learning in school is not as important as what they can teach you in life.
Yeah, street learning seems to be a lot more important to some families than it is to get educated in class.
Yeah.
So,
well, the whole problem of education, and I recommend that people read the book, The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, to help put some of this in perspective about what we are learning, what is the paradigm we are taught to believe, what we are taught to believe is important or not important. And that varies from generation to generation to generation. And now we are in a particularly different place than we've ever been. But every generation is different from the one that preceded it. No doubt, the one behind the young people now will be different from the way they are, no doubt. But we're not the only ones who get impacted by the way social systems are changing around us, because they never remain the same. But if you start with the disadvantage being your economic exclusion, not being humanly disadvantaged, but your exclusion from economic institutions, healthcare institutions, your quality of life institutions. If you get excluded from those service systems, there's no way that you can possibly be equal in your participation in society. You're going to always be behind.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it develops. And if you don't have an intervention in those systems that disadvantage you, then you will be even further behind. And that's what the laws were designed to change, and to try to at least bring a sense of equity and equality in. And that happened with a lot of people who didn't have the right to vote, a lot of people who didn't have access to health care, disadvantaged businesses. There was a time when the assumption was if you were African American descent and were trying to do a business, you were not going to be granted the level of capital needed to do that. And that's what made you disadvantaged. But what the right wing did is change the law to say you have to prove in an evidentiary way. And I think Madam Counsel earlier explained that to the gentleman about that's the way it works, that you have to provide empirical proof, practical proof that you were discriminated against in order to help you to qualify for the category of being disadvantaged.
Yep.
So things have changed so much from what we've got through the civil rights movement, and whatever gains we made, so much of that has been changed by the current administration, and they don't intend to do anything but to keep changing it until it's completely wiped out. That's their agenda.
All right. I got to take my break. Dr. Sanyika, always good, my friend. I'm glad you're feeling better.
But the conversation is a valuable one, but I think it has to be structured in a different way for people to understand that prejudice is there, but it's different from institutional racism or systemic racism, and it's certainly different from white supremacy.
Yep.
But we have to always remember who we are and whose we are, and where we are going in life and where we come from.
There you go.
We come from great people.
All right, Dr. Sanyika, always good. Thank you, my friend. I will
All
talk
right.
to you
Good
soon.
listening to you.
All righty. Talk to you later. All right, coming up. Deirdre, hold on. I know you're waiting. I know you've been waiting a minute. Hold on. We're coming back. You next.
AURN News.
I'm Ebony McMorris. Well, kicking off today on Capitol Hill is a Senate showdown over the Save America Act, President Trump's top election bill. Even though Republicans don't have the votes to pass it, Senate Republicans are launching a marathon debate expected to stretch for days, possibly into the weekend, as Majority Leader John Thune tries to balance the pressure from Trump with divisions in his own party. Republicans hold 53 seats, but they need 60 votes to cut off debate and move the bill forward, and Democrats are united against it. This bill would require proof of citizenship to register to vote, mandate voter ID nationwide, force states to share voter rolls with federal officials, and end mail-in ballots. These changes, civil rights groups warn, could block millions of eligible voters. Now, instead of trying to pass it outright, Republicans are staging a long floor fight to put Democrats on record ahead of the midterms. For AURN News, I'm Ebony McMorris.
New Orleans never sleeps, and neither does WBOK. Now, every voice, every moment, and every show is in your pocket. Search WBOK Media wherever you get podcasts. Download, share, rate us 5 stars. Because when you support us, you amplify Black voices and the New Orleans culture.
Well, Saints of God, this is Pastor David Impartan Sr. coming to you over the airways of WBOK, your favorite host of Change Your Water, Change Your Mind. I want to invite you to our show every Saturday from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m. That's Change Your Water, Change Your Mind. I want you to invite your family and friends to a broadcast that's designed to change your life, the way you think, the way you act, and what you eat. We want you to tune in every Saturday at 1 o'clock, WBOK, 12:30 a.m. See you on Saturday.
New Orleans, the city of festivals and second chances. This is Mr. Rocky of Faithers in Jesus the Christ, inviting everyone to come to the table of grace. No matter where you are or what you're dealing with, guilt, bad habits, mistakes, or heavy hearts, Jesus still calls us his friend, and his grace is waiting for us. Tune in to WBOK, 12:30 a.m., or watch live on Facebook or Instagram. We'll reflect on his work on the cross, his resurrection, his ascension, and the hope of his return for we who that believe and have received him by faith. So join us at the table of grace, where mercy is fresh, forgiveness is real, and grace is served for people like you and me.
LifeCare provides valuable whole life insurance to cover final expenses such as medical bills, burial costs, and unpaid debt. A final expense insurance policy is fast, easy, affordable life insurance that's available to anyone between the ages of 50 and 80. No medical exams, no lengthy questionnaires, and no waiting period. The application process is quick and easy. You can even apply without having to undergo a medical examination. Just answer a few questions and we'll do the rest. With the average funeral cost skyrocketing to $11,000 and Social Security only paying $255, you need simple, affordable peace of mind for you and your whole family. Don't leave behind unpaid expenses that, if left unattended, will burden your family tremendously. Benefits include a guaranteed premium that will never increase, a guaranteed cash value, and a guaranteed death benefit that can never decrease. To find out how you can get final expense insurance with a guaranteed lifetime rate lock, call LifeCare at 800-571-9955. That's 800-571-9955. 800-571-9955.
Get in on the conversation at 504-582-9422. Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 12:30 a.m.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Deirdre, you still there?
Hi, hey G, how you doing?
I am so sorry. Everybody that talked a whole lot. Call right when
and
you
then
call.
you put me on behind Dr. Sandika. I'm like, why? I feel stupid. No, I forgot what I wanted to say.
Yes,
hey, Suzanne.
How you doing? It's good to hear from you.
I didn't say it personally, but thank you so much for Mardi Gras and your hospitality.
Oh, thank you
That's
for
all
coming.
all woman needs is access, honey.
Look,
and you see,
you're
I bring
welcome
my own
anytime.
food and my own drink. I just need access.
We had
welcome
a
anytime.
ball. We had a ball.
Yes, we did. But Suzette asked a while ago, when's the first time you experienced racism? I was at the Skyview Drive-In, so you know when I say drive-in, I wasn't yesterday. And this white boy called my mama a nigga. I'm like, you talking to my mama who's a saint? Are you serious? That's the second time I faced it. We had white, because where I lived on this street, we had white across the street, black on this side. And that's been the way it always was from the day I was born. And some white family moved in, and the girl came, and we were playing with her. And then one day my mom was outside, and she must have said something that went over our heads, and my mom forbade me forever, don't even look at her again, okay? Third time on Canal Street, do not buy where they don't hire. I remember seeing people carry those signs up and down Canal Street and standing up when I went in McCrory's, Woolworths, and those places where they had eateries. And we had to stand up and eat. And I'm looking behind me, there are like a million seats. So why can't we sit down, Mom? Because your color. Well, I don't want to be no color because I want to sit down. Standing in front of Alderman Park, knowing that I could not go in there. I don't care how good I was in church. We can't go to Alderman Park because I'm colored. Well, I told you before, I don't want to be no color. I want to get on that tea and cup ride. So it has always been there. And then my mom got a job at Boeing, miss you. And they used to have these little clandestine meetings, her and the other black people working there, and they would get together, and they put together a class action lawsuit. And when they went to court, Suzette, you would be so proud. They had things like Suzette came into work 25 minutes late, stayed at the water cooler talking to Gerod, who did not do his work, until about 12:30. That's the things they had. This date and time, okay? They were not playing. So they won their lawsuit. They got better jobs, and then they got paid retroactively. So that was a good thing. The next time I saw it was at Sophie B. Wright. Yes, because we were the class that integrated Sophie B. Wright in 1965, 1966. And they handpicked us because they wanted the best and the brightest because we were going to the white school. And we were so excited because we were going to the white school. The white teachers treated us like trash and let us know it kept us in our places. We were not taught anything that first year in 7th grade. I know nothing about 7th grade because, honey, I was not taught in 7th grade. 8th grade, we started getting black teachers in, but they only put them in the PE department. So by the time we got to 9th grade, I had the sense to pull it all together and go to 35, where I was loved again by black teachers.
Let me ask you something, though,
racism-
Deirdre. Well, one of the things, too, that you said was that you went to the Woolworth counter, correct?
Oh, yeah, at the Woolworth counter, Macquarie counter, yeah. They were all, you had K&B counter, yeah.
You were,
you had all of those eateries.
Were you one of those, because you're a little girl then, right?
I was a little girl, yeah.
Did you?
But I remember seeing the adults wearing the sign, do not buy where they won't hire. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out. Were you a little girl or were you one of the protesters?
I was a little girl watching it on Canal Street when we were going because, you know, when you went downtown, you were all dressed up. You didn't go downtown like you look now.
So what lessons from your generation and from everything you experienced, what lessons did you learn that you would share with young people and ask them to please don't forget?
Well, like I said, the stories and the progress and how long it took to make the progress that we made. You know, it took the killing of the 4 little girls in Sunday school and things like Emmett Till and the various lynchings to bring about change because, you know, on all of that violence, we had change. It's like back in the 30s after the Depression, we came up with the Harlem Renaissance. So we've always been able to overcome and take. But my problem is racism may have changed a bit in that nowadays when you're lynched, and to me, lynching is still going on, when the police fix your son's car and go upon him and accost him and he winds up shot to death, that's still a lynching. But we can't do it where we're walking down the street and they just grab you and shoot you. The only difference now is sometimes there is accountability. Not all the time, but sometimes there is accountability. And know your rights. Stand up for yourself. And stop falling for, and this is what I hate the most, when they dumb down children. You know, like you all were talking about the difference between being racist and prejudiced. Everybody knows you cannot be racist in a country where you have no power. Okay? There was no black person at the Continental Congress, the Declaration of Independence, at the Constitution. We didn't even get a say in the Bill of Rights. The first 10 is called the Bill of Rights. Everything else is an amendment. We have no law on the book, and isn't that in Dred Scott, that white people have to respect? There is nothing we can say. So the only thing I can say to you is to continue to progress forward, because even when you are doing the right thing and going the right way, ask the women of the Fearless Fund, because all of the rules that they came up with in the civil rights era to protect us are now being used against us. You got rid of a thing like the Fearless Fund, who was giving black women $25,000, which ain't nothing, just pennies, because you're talking about billionaires. They would get once a year, $25 to help you with your black business. Bill Ackerman got rid of that. So all of the things that they're using to help us are now using against us. And democracy and freedom and equality is messy, ongoing. There is no such thing, because I thought when you signed the Civil Rights Bill, I was 10. The Voting Rights Bill, I was 11. That was it. We ain't got no more problem with these people. You forgot that sometimes they'll come back and they change their mind. You're getting rid of the Voting Rights Act, because in June, the Voting Rights Act will be gone. Alito has already alluded to that, and you know Clarence Thomas is a buffoon.
Right.
Gorsuch is worse, and you know Amy, you know what I really call her, Suzette Barrett. It's a C word, and it ends with the T. Anyway, she is going to go along with that, and the only three real justices we have are Ketanji and the two other ladies. So we don't have anything. You have to keep fighting, young people. You have to keep fighting. It does not end. As long as there is an America, and this is an experiment, you have to keep fighting. You have to keep pushing for your rights. You have to keep going to court. It doesn't stop. It's a continuous, ongoing.
Great advice. Great advice.
Good conversation, but we got to cut
All
it
right,
right
my baby.
there.
See y'all later.
All right.
Love you
Great
much.
advice.
See you next year, Suzette.
See you.
I'm your permanent guest.
Good. You're welcome
y'all.
anytime.
We going to see you next week anyway.
Oh, yeah, you're going to see me. That's right. You sure will. All right, baby.
All right.
And I'm wearing pink.
You can't get in. Can't get in. Nah. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for us. For a good conversation, y'all. Interesting listening to everybody's, I guess, their life stories.
And what a great way to end.
Yep.
Keep pushing, keep fighting, keep calling it out.
There you go. All right, y'all. We'll be back on tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Make sure you let somebody know. Otherwise, we'll see you then.